Before even stepping into the frame of the streaming camera, Jiho had already grown tired of Guraf. The behavior this guy was exhibiting was not that of someone who had just apologized a moment ago. In this cramped space masked once again, Jiho could only wonder how things had turned out this way again. Going back a few minutes, we saw the manager dominantly imposing some restrictions on anything defamatory towards Jiho. She had decided to come here in person to confirm what exactly the reveal would be. If this turned out to be an infringement of privacy, S91 would not hesitate to press charges against the streamer. Hearing this, Guraf immediately folded in fear as he swore that the organization had nothing to worry about. That's exactly what the manager wanted, but just in case, she still wanted to hear how S91 should handle this incident from Guraf's words. The root of this issue was the simple fact that masked Jiho's streams had performed exceptionally well with a lot of views and positive feedback. He had only planned to create some regular content, except he thought he'd add a little bit of excitement to hype up his viewers. But that's not just a little bit, that's a lot of excitement. The manager wanted to ensure that there wouldn't be any deviation from the content reported to S91. Guraf also had to clear the unnecessary hype right away. If a problem did arise, Manager Mommy wouldn't be the one knocking on the studio's doors next time. Guraf was still on edge, but he was glad that they had cleared the air. From his initial fear to the number of likes his stream would get today, he couldn't wait to proceed with the stream as he had intended. And that's what led to this moment of Guraf pretending that his apology at the start of the stream was merely a skit for his viewers. Now that it was out of the way, it was time for some killer content. With an absurd graphic on his back, he addressed his viewers who were sitting in their rooms, dreaming of becoming a pro. He announced his search for the next super rookie. Guraf set the prize at a whopping 10 million won to kickstart the Masked Rookie Challenge. Clueless about all of this, Jiho was taken aback by the large prize pool. But that was the least of his worries. The rule of the search was simple. All the viewers had to do was win against Jiho, the super trainee. In true streamer fashion, the guy was overhyping his viewers by acting unhinged again. Masked Jiho was reaching his limit with this guy. He was done with these crazy antics. Guraf was out there doing bunny hops in his room to show hype and excitement. That is some upstairs neighbor activity right there. Jiho couldn't take it anymore. To go against Guraf's plans, he would accept the challenge, but he would like to set a condition. He would participate in this contest only if Guraf beat him in a 1 versus 1. This stopped Trash Guraf in his tracks. He clearly heard Jiho's stipulation, but he was just having a brain fart. He couldn't process it yet. Jiho took a seat and said he would log in right away, telling Guraf to come in when he was ready. On the inside, Guraf was extremely infuriated by this snotty rotten brat's counteroffer. He thought about just exposing his past and screwing him over. But no, Jiho was still useful to him. He wanted to milk all the value for all it's worth. So he humbly went up to this masked trainee to propose a counteroffer. He wanted to invite another Sword Rush streamer and have a nice and clean 2 versus 1. Jiho thought that his motion sickness had gotten a little better after the hack arena, and this could be good practice, so he easily agreed. With dollar signs in his eyes, Guraf was beaming with radiance, knowing that an ace never shies away from a challenge. Bro is trying to finesse someone that can 1 versus 100 literal hackers. It did not take too long for them to set up a room, and now we were on the loading screen. Guraf's live chat kept calling him shameless for going 2 versus 1, but this guy was actually proud of it. In exchange, they promised not to use a healer in the duo comp. He would be using Glacusa, a support hero that excels in acceleration. Disgraceful doesn't even begin to describe him, but he's playing a hero that his viewers like. As for his duo partner, this guy was just happy to get invited to Guraf's channel. He was the gaming streamer Fishcake, controlling the DPS Eugen, an offense-centric pick. He got into the room without knowing who they were facing. Guraf only told him now that they would fight the S91 trainee who came on his channel last time. It's the same player who got MVP for all his placements. This would be wild. Jiho thought that Spiro would be perfect for this 2 versus 1, but Jinnah advised him not to pick it, so he'd pick an offensive support that counters the enemies instead. His hero would be Genevieve, a support that is well-rounded in every stat with a little bit of speed. Normally, he would kill the annoying support first, but that strat was out of the window because Guraf was the one playing support this time. He planned to deal with the DPS first as fast as he could. The initial collision was easily dodged as Eugen's attack hit nothing but the ground. This opened the Cyborg Ape to some critical counterattack openings. After dealing with this one, Jiho intended to take his time torturing Guraf. Fishcake couldn't help but acknowledge that this first attack was just unreal. With these moves, it quickly became apparent that he was not a trainee for nothing. Meanwhile, on Guraf's chat, someone pledged 200,000 won if the duo wins. This was enough to wake up the money-hungry streamer's blood and thank action. Everyone was underestimating his power when there was a cash reward on the line. He believed that nothing could stop him now. But Jiho was just confused by this confusing play. Using a ground skill right away was a huge blunder, given that he wouldn't have it for later, and Genevieve even had an immunity skill. It would have been better if Guraf used it while Jiho was engaging the DPS. Nonetheless, at least that's one thing he doesn't have to worry about anymore. Using this fast-as-hell hero, Jiho riddled Eugen with countless attacks at a breakneck pace. Every stab and slash was perfectly placed. Frishcake was just flabbergasted that he was taking every attack while Jiho looked super relaxed and not even breaking a sweat on the stream. It was becoming apparent that an offensive support does a lot of damage when all the shots land. His chat was starting to trash talk him for running away in an unfair 2 versus 1. To add insult to injury, Jiho even unequipped Genevieve's spear while telling the two to take their time. Like the classic gamers that they are, the two streamers wouldn't take that taunting lying down. Guraf told Cake to just toss their strategy out, they would just charge right in. Why would they need a strategy when it's a 2 versus 1 in the first place? And so the duo did just that, jumping into the fray with a furious leap while their chats kept on dissing them for embarrassing themselves. A 2-pronged attack was a no-brainer in a 2 versus 1. It's a good textbook move. But since it was such a no-brainer, Jiho knew exactly what was about to happen. As the target of this 2-angle assault, he could easily predict the enemy's limited moves. He started with Eugen, and Glacusa followed suit, trying to slash through while Jiho was distracted. But that turned out to be a failure as Guraf ate a spear slash to the face. Cake was low on health, so this guy needed to tank a few shots instead. He needed to take Jiho's aggro no matter what, but the kid was just ignoring and avoiding him. Jiho's Genevieve would rather pummel the DPS even further with his relentless barrage of attacks. It was clear that our boy was trying to kill the DPS first, so Eugen scrambled and retreated to the other side of the map. He leaped and made chase without any hesitation. He needed to land a kill shot, but this progression was actually better for the streamer duo. This was it. They thought that Jiho had finally taken their bait. But our boy had already caught on to what they were doing. They were obviously hurting him in one direction. Guraf wanted to show his chat that they'd been doing everything deliberately up to now when they cornered Jiho. These two morons thought that nobody could block or dodge both an ultimate and a ranged attack at the same time. Guraf started it off with his ground skill again as it slowly crawled through the map. Eugen's cannon arm had also locked onto poor Genevieve, but Jiho begged to differ with their opinion. He thought that he could dodge both fatal attacks. His micro skills would be on full display with this particular play. His hero's movement skill had finally come up. Closing the gap with the DPS in just a second is exactly why he picked Genevieve as his hero. Jiho unleashed an electrifying spear stab that paralyzed Eugen, canceling the monkey's ultimate. Cake could not help but realize that this might be the end for them. Under the humiliating barrage of stabs and slashes, this is what happens when noobs try to surround the GOAT. He even wanted to end this first enemy with a dramatic flare. With a clean stab through Eugen's body, that wasn't even the end of Cake's run. Jiho activated another electric skill that crackled through the spear. Jiho was enjoying the release of this brutal finish against an opponent with such low HP. Guraf and Cake were now convinced that this would be the end of the line for them. A massive explosion of electricity and destruction deleted the DPS from the face of the game. Meanwhile, Guraf's freezing floor had yet to reach Jiho's range. He admitted that he might have struggled if they did this strategy right from the start. But now, it had become extremely easy to kill and dodge at the same time. This rotten streamer was in a bind right now. He was about to lose with his money-making idea on the line. And now, even though it's just a video game, he felt an ominous feeling while standing against Jiho in a 1 versus 1. He asked himself if he had done something wrong to the point that this was starting to feel personal. Now that he was certainly screwed, he might as well aim for more donations while putting on a show. He intended to go out with a bang for more donations from here on out. The first 10,001 donation noticed that Jiho had been one-tapping his keys to dodge every skill coming his way. He's not only dodging but zipping past the ranged attacks to close the distance. Another 30,001 donation dubbed Jiho as the second coming of Faker in the gaming world. Genevieve's strikes have this heavy and very personal weight to them no matter how you saw it. Of course, some chatters donated to reflect their insecurities to Jiho given how good he is at the game. Just when Guraf thought he had a chance to sneak in a little counterattack of his own, he was rudely reminded of the skill gap between him and God Jiho. Another 50,000 won donation expressed that watching Guraf getting smashed this badly is like therapy. Some of the viewers knew that it was over as soon as Cake's ult was cancelled. Jiho was not joking when he said he was going to take his time with Guraf. He was curb stomping the hero on the ice. Another 100,000 won donation wanted Jiho to start streaming, as he will 100% go viral with his playstyle. Even though it's not his main hero, Genevieve looked like a death god sentencing Guraf to a humiliating non-stop beating. But instead of shame, this pervert was just feeling pleasure from all the donation notifications. If he picked a healer and self-healed, he could have lasted until he collected 3 million won more. Just arrest this man for every crime. All of it. He blamed himself for being a moron who couldn't see the big picture. He could have made so much more money from this beatdown. Finally, Jiho decided to raise the electric spear for the curtain call. A resounding boom echoed through the map as he absolutely obliterated Guraf's hero. Beating up the trashy guy felt really good as Jiho pulled out the headphones. He tossed away the mask as he prepared to go home. Man, black shirt, Jiho is a menace to society. After sobering up from his donation euphoria, Guraf finally realized that he had screwed up big time. He had tried to play fair by not picking a healer, but now he was about to lose everything. He had no other choice but to plead with Mr. Hotshot Trainee. He would pause the stream just so they could have a quick chat together. Guraf thought that Jiho was just naive, but he was harder to exploit than expected. He went back to his seat to entertain his audience some more and make fun of his loss. But it didn't matter how smart Jiho was compared to him. Jiho dealt with tens of thousands of viewers every single day. If he stopped the stream, his viewers would be very mad and blame Spiro. It was just so predictable. He even shamelessly tried to act cute and stuff. Everyone watching the stream could not help but feel a visceral reaction to that. Back in the club room, it was Chaewon's first glance at Jiho's genius. He was not an S-Mami-1 trainee for nothing. Guraf and Frisch Cake were both grandmasters and rankers to boot. They even had an optimal duo comp. Jinyeon hyped up his boy even more, saying that Jiho had won too easily this time, adding that Jiho was always an animal when he was gaming. Eugen also chimed in. He expected no less from the rank 1 of one sword. The new girl did not know that, so she assumed that Local was just kidding or something. Any player aiming for the pro league like her would know of the legendary Spiro. Eugen, being the airhead that he is, thought that Blondie was talking about Spiro the hero, but it's not even a secret anymore that what Chaewon said was right. Jiho was Spiro's origin as the rank 1 of one sword. Also, Jinyoung had another tidbit of information that everyone in the room must know. With a confident smirk, the Silver Warlord announced that he needed to go and take a dump.
Ew! Dude! What the?
Inaruno ran to exit the club room, leaving his teammates with a stinky revelation when they thought he was about to say something important. But Chaewon just realized something awkward just now. With everyone gone, it was just her and Eugen alone in the club room now. Back in Guraf's studio, this rotten guy was still pleading with Jiho that the match was unfair. Since he turned 30 ages ago, it was no surprise that he was no match against the rank 1 of one sword. He so badly wanted Jiho's withdrawal to be just something to make the match spicy. But before all that, Jiho wanted to know how this guy found out that he was the rank 1 of one sword. You'd have to be an idiot not to figure that out by now after watching Jiho play. No one else would go around bashing heads in with a depraved hero like Spiro. Also, it was Chang Yun. That kid was the first to ask Guraf to confirm Jiho's identity in the first place. But even without any of that, anyone who used to play one sword would undoubtedly recognize Jiho instantly. Guraf knew that he must hurry before the manager got in his way again. He wanted to know just why Jiho even bothered to hide this incredible fact in the first place when it would be easier to just reveal it. Well, that would be because Jiho was worried. He was worried that as soon as that information got out, he wouldn't be free to simply enjoy playing Sword Rush like he's doing now. This rotten man feigns sympathy for the kid as he found his new in. Even Jiho could just buy another account. He wouldn't say that because he could use this fear. When it came to content and money-making, this idea turned into an absolute genius of disgusting proportions. With Jiho's worries, he could turn the tables. For now, he just needed one more chance from the kid. He wanted to propose a way where Jiho could enjoy Sword Rush even more. He shoved his phone in Jiho's face and gave him a glance at the streaming world. It was his chat, pissed off that the stream ended on such short notice, blaming Jiho for getting out early and killing the broadcast. Guraf wanted to find someone from this chat with actual skills and absolutely destroy them like Jiho used to do. If they were lucky, there might be someone here who used to play one sword too. Back in the club room, the unlikely duo of Eugen and Chaewon practice as partners silently. Even after 45 minutes of playing together, only the taps and clicks of the keyboard and mouse could be heard in the room. Chaewon felt awkward around this scary-looking dude. He didn't say a single thing unless asked for something first. She clumsily brought up that Jin Young was certainly taking his time. Eugen thought that maybe the kid ran out of toilet paper or something. Jin Young would have texted them if that was the case, but this was perfect. He could use this to get rid of Eugen, telling him to give their teammate a roll of toilet paper. Eugen might look like a thug, but he's a nice guy thug. He would gladly hand his homie some toilet paper. He stepped out of the club room, finally giving Chaewon some room to breathe. Now that she was all alone in the room, he could finally stretch his bones. From now on, the new girl really needed to get along with everyone here. Eugen had been waiting all this time so they could practice together, but that was 50 minutes down the drain of no team practice. Now, he even had to hand the idiots some toilet paper in the teacher's only restroom. He slid the door open and screamed for Jin Young, but instead of his teammate, he saw some thugs doing some dubious activities and inhaling some suspicious material. One of the thugs recognized him as one of the gaming nerds and ordered him to come closer, given that he already told the dorks not to use this bathroom. Eugen remained unfazed by these goons, though, at the same toilet a few days back. These same thugs confronted him after hearing that he used to throw hands, making a name for himself as local or something like that. But if that was the case, then why hadn't these guys heard of him yet? Eugen's dad had told him to hold back whenever he thought a fight was about to start, so he just shut down these goons' childish remarks. It infuriated the supposed leader of the delinquent group. This leader then pinched Eugen on the cheek pretty hard, while continuing with some weak verbal assault. Calling their activities childish was something that only superiors were allowed to say, so the leader gave Eugen a few weak slaps on the face for being rude. Oh, hell no, you have to go on demon time at this point. Before anything worse could happen, the busy Mr. Yoon arrived suddenly. This should be the staff restroom, but some students were loitering around. He stepped in to break up this suspicious gathering while reprimanding the students for being where they weren't supposed to be. He asked the students why they were there in the first place. He also asked Eugen if this was what he thought it was. So, all of them were called into the staff room immediately. Back to the present, it looked like a repeat of the incident from a few days ago. This thug leader calling Eugen a dork was about to swing for a slap again. But local warned them that he would not hold back twice. As the delinquent leader was about to dish out his weak and disrespectful slap, Eugen took the first shot with a face-altering smack. It immediately left a handprint on the guy's ugly mug. It looks like the rumors are true about this local after all. These thugs heard that Eugen got into fights all the time in middle school, and now he joined the club to play games and lord over the nerds. As Eugen dodged a clumsy punch, he insisted that all of that was bull crap. These morons don't even know him, so another resounding slap as a counter should be fine. Holding the toilet paper for his buddy, he shifted his target to the last fool. A toilet paper slam to the face shouldn't hurt too bad, but it has to be exceptionally humiliating. Eugen is just John Wick with that toilet paper. Local doesn't like people who spread weird rumors about him when they don't know anything about him. He finished off the third guy with a neck-shattering, perfectly timed uppercut. These goons were really pissing him off big time. With these morons either writhing on the floor in pain or looking at the slapping aftermath, Eugen wanted to make something clear. He didn't want people to talk smack about his club members. As usual, these idiots were still looking fierce, thinking that Eugen just practiced martial arts or something. For a change, the Three Stooges wanted to grab his arms to break some bones. They were out here broadcasting their next moves like they were in voice chat. That kid thought he was still on Discord. Given that Local could hear everything, he could respond accordingly with a spin move that ultimately culminated in a massive kick to an unfortunate imbecile's leg. These guys made the ultimate noob mistake of calling their moves before attacking. No team play, no strength, no drip, no hose. These three were not just clowns, they were the whole circus. As another one came at Eugen with an awkward punch, he took a sharp step to the inside and landed a critical punch to the jaw while holding the toilet paper. Jin Young had been hiding in one of the stalls for the last 45 minutes because he was too scared. Watching this go down was just straight out of a movie. He couldn't believe that Local was actually amazing at fighting. That was even more shocking than him being a healer main. This might just be why the other bullies had not been coming around the club. Given that a 3-on-1 resulted in complete annihilation, Local insisted that he did not give a damn about the childish crap that these delinquents got up to. But he wouldn't stand still if they dared to spread weird rumors again. With bruised faces and frustration, the leader looked at him with contempt. I would bet money that you've never seen someone wrap up some toilet paper in their hands so menacingly. If these idiots kept on pushing him, Eugen wouldn't hold back again. This man is going pro on the wrong sport. The day after Giraffe's stream, Jiho's life had pretty much returned to normal. Jin-young was there to buzz around him like a fly, and Giraffe was still trying to get him to come back to the stream. But today might not be the same as the last ones, as people from their school were starting to recognize Jiho. They were all over the fact that he had gotten in the car with Jin Ali yesterday. There was a photo of them together going viral on Winstagram. That's right, he had become a Winstagram and YouTube celebrity. Jiho's schoolmates were just dying to know what relationship he had with Jin-ah to be alone with her in a car. But first of all, the manager was also there, and secondly, he wasn't even sure if he was allowed to disclose anything. Checking the photo, Jin-young confirmed that it was really getting a lot of likes. That photo got 50 times the likes that Guraff got on his recent post. Jiho had basically become a true celebrity. This guy was already letting all those likes get to his head, believing that it was all because of his good looks. Jin-young had the most appropriate response you could ever have, but it was undeniable that Jin Ali looked pretty as hell in that pic. Of course, the clout-chasing schoolmates would want some autographs or something. It started with one guy, and then more people started to recognize Jiho from the viral picture. It only took a minute for a mob to form, hounding Jiho for all sorts of things. They wanted to know if he was doing something with S91, what Jin Ali smelled like, or if she had a bunch of gaming laptops in her car and stuff. Jiho did not know that his Jin-ah Nuna was this popular with boys his age. Thankfully, he was yanked out of that growing mob. As for who got him out of the mess, it was none other than the new girl, Chaewon. In one of the classrooms at Dano High, Chang-yeon was peacefully scribbling through his notes. He overheard his classmates talking about some first-year bullies getting destroyed by a local. That name, local, was very familiar to him, a peculiar nickname given by a certain someone in their team. He naturally thought that these classmates of his were talking about Eugen, the Eugen who took out 3 goons on his own. He kept his head down, but he was really good at fighting. You would think that he did martial arts. They called him local because he beat up all the local bullies back in middle school. Some said that's where he got the scar on his face. Some kids thought he was the reason there weren't any bullies around the school. Overhearing the mention of a face scar all but confirmed that it was definitely Eugen. That knucklehead was getting into trouble. Chang-yeon might need to lock them in the club room or something. As he was thinking about what to do from here, a raging, familiar voice entered the room, asking the gossiping classmates where they had heard all that stuff about local. It was none other than the furious Captain Ari. This was higher stakes than usual because she was holding Chang-yeon's gym clothes while fuming in anger. If this gossip weren't true, she would truly kill these kids for spreading lies about her teammate. But it should be true since the whole school knew what happened by now. Chang-yeon jumped in to save his gym clothes and to avoid causing any more scenes in the classroom. But the hot-headed captain reasoned that she wasn't causing a scene. She was just asking questions. He just whispered to her that they should go directly to the source and ask Eugen themselves to check if the rumors were true. Ari relented and agreed to just ask the first years later in the club room. Now that classes were about to start soon, she humbly apologized for being rude. She just got a bit worked up because it was someone she knew. She knew that Eugen could be a bit of a jerk at times, but he would not go around beating people up. But what if it was true? Mr. Yoon had already told them to stay out of trouble. She also warned Chang-yeon to stay out of this as she was going to deal with this herself as captain. Meanwhile, things had been going as usual in the cafeteria. Chaewon was just finding out that the other kids in school still didn't know that Jiho was an S91 trainee, nor was he trying to hide that fact. She quickly caught on to the fact that Jiho was worried that he wouldn't be able to focus on gaming if the word got out. Her quick pickup came as a surprise to Jiho. In just the short time that they had been talking, she had already acclimated to the situation. Jin-young also chimed in to take shots at his best friend, claiming that one sword was all this dingus thought about when he wasn't eating. From the way he talked, you'd think he was some hero trying to save the world. This earned Jin-young the quick carrot chop to the neck to shut him up while eating. After hearing everyone talk, Chaewon just became more curious about how good Jiho was. So she did miss a beat and challenged Jiho to a match today. Eugen was utterly convinced that he was the only normal one among them. Jin-young wouldn't let that slip by though. Local was definitely the weirdest one out of all of them. All this talk about local was only confusing everyone. This kid spilled the beans that he saw Eugen fight, and he was totally the local everyone was talking about. He pretended that he wasn't the neighborhood bully this whole time. It was hella whack, but Jiho didn't really mind at all. Going back to his lunch, that stuff about Eugen fighting didn't faze Jiho at all. But the other students had a wildly different reaction. They were starting to turn on Eugen for being the worst of the worst since he certainly looked the part. The gaming club was also getting labeled as a group of delinquents because of this. Ari, being pretty infamous among the second years for her bad temper, didn't help their case either. But Chang-yeon should have been a model student since middle school and had never caused any trouble. Rolling with the wrong crowd didn't suit him. He was being lumped in with Captain Ari, and all the girls who liked her when the semester started low-key hated her now. The students were even targeting the gaming club's switch to a vocational course. They thought it was for the best since their studying was hopeless anyway. These gossip-mongering students weren't even trying to hide the fact that they were dissing the club. If the rumors had spread this far, this thing had gone out of control, it was getting serious. And that's when Ari sent a group text message to the team. She wanted everyone to meet in the club room as soon as school ended. In the room, Ari and Chang-yeon looked like disappointed parents confronting their kids about the rumors of Eugen being this infamous local. Our friendly, murderous healer admitted that he did get into a fight, but he insisted that he wasn't local. Ari was evidently worried to find out that he did fight against 3 people. She was just concerned about Eugen's well-being. And the kid politely nodded to confirm. She felt relief that Eugen didn't get hurt since that was better than getting beaten up in her opinion. Chang-yeon begged to differ though. He firmly believed it would have been less of a headache if Eugen had gotten beaten up instead. He had already told everyone not to get in trouble for the sake of the vocational course, but they just wouldn't listen. Jingyeon didn't do anything wrong, but he still felt like a screwball getting scolded. Artie clapped back, reminding Chang-yeon not to get involved this time. But he just couldn't resist reprimanding these knuckleheads. As for this local talk, no one was really sure what it was exactly. So Eugen explained, back in his middle school days, some lowlife bully decided to target him for some classic lunch money extortion. And the lowlife didn't look like the look on his face. Before he could get beaten up, he unleashed the first strike without even blinking. To him, that was a fair fight. After that, there was a different loser lowlife bully targeting someone who couldn't defend himself. This nerdy-looking kid was actually Eugen's friend, so he gave the thugs some tough whacking to the neck. After that, challengers in all shapes and sizes started seeking him out for fights. He just casually accepted any challenge, though. It didn't take too long for every student in the middle school to spin some stories about him going around beating up all the neighborhood bullies, a local bully, if you will. This guy was basically the main character of his own series back in middle school. Hearing this story, Ari was convinced that this guy was a whole new breed of screwball. Jingyeon rejoiced that he wasn't the most problematic member anymore. Everyone else was just shocked by that retelling. Suddenly, every one of their phones started to buzz at the same time. It was Soyeon informing them that the Parents Association was going to protest the Sword Rush vocational course because of violence, and it had only been a day since she left. This was exactly the worst-case scenario that Chang-yeon was afraid of. He was going to have to step in. So, he instructed Eugen to come out as they needed to talk. The obedient Eugen quickly followed suit, and Captain Ari didn't have the time to protest anymore. She just slammed the desk in frustration with all her idiot team members. It looked like Chang-yeon was off the rails now. She tried to patch things up, but things were getting out of control. These days, their team had been under complete mayhem. Chae-won could only wonder if it was always this scary in this place. Chang-yeon laid out the situation with the Parents Association watching their every move. It wasn't just the vocational course that was at stake here. If they weren't careful, they might have to scrap the club altogether. So, he asked Eugen what they would do from this point. This kid probably didn't have a plan. Although he couldn't express it, Eugen really did feel bad that it had gotten to this point. Chang-yeon didn't need to say anything more. In his opinion, Eugen must take responsibility for his actions. He must get the hell out of their team.
Are you serious right now, bro?
Jingyeon wanted to check on the two, but Ari wanted to wait a bit longer. They would go up if they still didn't come back in a few minutes. While they were doing nothing, Chae-won proposed that they should practice. She was trying so hard to get Jiho in front of a computer to find out how good he was. The new girl is such a sword rush nerd that she would crouch and use her charm on Jiho if need be. Blondie just wanted to have a quick match with Jiho while they were waiting. Ari was feeling the headache of being the captain once again. She was starting to think that she might be the problem here. Suddenly, Jiho's phone started ringing once again, but it was Jeduk calling him this time around. Chae-won was disappointed to see that the demand for Jiho was just too high with all the calls coming in. Jeduk started off by asking if he was interrupting practice, but Jiho assured him that he was not. He just called to ask Jiho if they've seen the Wild School tournament announcement just now. There were so many things happening that everyone forgot that today was the announcement. The groupings and brackets of the contest had been decided too, it looks like they won't be facing Jaeduck's team just yet. The kid even sent Jiho a picture of the brackets for the upcoming tournament. Dano High is in the lowest Group H, and they are seeded as the worst team in the entire lineup. As expected, the number 1 seed in Group A is Yeonju High. They should have gotten an easy first in the tryouts. They have the opposite seed at the very last place. They have Jiangsu High to worry about in Group H. Chaewon saw the name of Gil High, and her anger and annoyance were palpable. Jaeduck also wanted to talk to Ari as he heard that Dano High is starting a vocational course to support the players. This information was supposed to be hush-hush, and Jiho did not even tell Jaeduck about it. It turned out that the kid heard it from another friend, and everyone already knows about it by now. Also, Bongwon High's coach just suddenly quit his job, apparently. The whole team is scrambling and having a mental breakdown right now. Jiho already knew that though, that coach is pink undies after all. This was the first time that Jaeduck heard about this crucial piece of news. He did not realize that the perv was Bonghum's coach. It shouldn't come as a surprise since the guy was always good at analysis and strats. Hearing this juicy gossip prompted Jaeduck to want to share it with some other guys from One Sword as he said his goodbye. His username Blood Moon Hurricane really checks out. Talking to him is quite chaotic. Ari logged into one of the computers to analyze the brackets. The team wasn't even thinking about it given that there's too much going on lately. Every year, the organizers introduce new formats to the tournament. Ari needs to find out what's new this time around. The announcement included the introduction of the pick and ban system in all existing game modes. Also, the tournament winners will enter a special match against the trainees from last year's champions. The addition of the pick and ban feature is something that would drastically affect Dano High. Captain Ari, Jinyoung, and even Chaewon knew how deeply this would change the game. Jiho wasn't surprised by this since he heard that they're going to introduce it to the Pro League too. They must be testing it out in the school tournament. Jinyoung would be crippled by this rule as he only practiced AXA. He must come back to square zero of the grind. But Jiho just mocked his friend for not being good enough to be target banned. The opponents would probably take Ari's Bluminance. The Silver Warlord clapped back that Jiho's just lucky that he plays a trash hero that no one picks. But this kid would fight for his Spearow until the end of time. Since their team is full of one tricks, a pick and ban feature will hit them like a hammer, especially once teams catch on to Spearow. Chaewon assured the captain that she's one less one trick to worry about as she's also good at playing bruiser-type tanks. A few minutes had passed already, so Ari ordered the kids to stop fighting and fetch Chang-yun. Jinyoung volunteered to go upstairs and call the two back to the room. On a rooftop, we see Chang-yun pushing Eugen to take responsibility for his actions and leave the team, but Local just shook his head in refusal. It looks like these two stoic types are in a standoff with their principles on the line. Chang-yun wanted to emphasize how shameless it would be to do the worst possible thing and hold the team back because of it. Eugen is adamant that there aren't any problems because he simply did nothing wrong. That's not the point though. What's right and wrong doesn't matter anymore. The Parents Association just needs something or someone to blame at this point. Imagine being a grown-ass parent and hating on a gaming club. Those people wanted the team gone, and Eugen handed them exactly what they were looking for. Refusing to acknowledge that would just drag the team down. So, in Chang-yun's opinion, Eugen must lead the team no matter what. You're not going to find a better healer, bro. Give it up. Jinyoung heard everything, so now he's too scared to intervene in such a serious talk. He kept on seeing things that he shouldn't really be seeing lately. He felt like a spy working for the CIA or something. It seems cold-hearted, but like always, Chang-yun isn't wrong. But only Jinyoung knows that Eugen kicked some butt because of the team. Local is just being falsely accused, so he bursts through the door with some vital information to reveal. Looking at the kid, the two can only wonder what Jinyoung has in store for them. Rather than telling them something, he thinks that it's better if they see the thing for themselves. In Jinyoung's phone is a complete video of the altercation inside the faculty restroom. Seeing the reason for Eugen's beatdown could be used as evidence for their case, plus that crispy slap never gets old. Chang-yun did not expect that Jinyoung would come in to save the day in a single move. This video completely changes everything. It changes their dangerous status. Jinyoung can't quite grasp it, but he's having a bad feeling about Chang-yun's reaction. He just started recording this video in case the bullies beat up Eugen. He did not expect Local to turn things around and act like John Wick instead. This is truly a job well done by Jinyoung. He came in clutch for the entire team today. It's rare to receive a compliment from the ice-cold Chang-yun, but now he's finally received it, and Jinyoung is already letting it go to his head as usual. And as for Eugen, Chang-yun genuinely apologized for saying everything he just said. He was just thinking about the team and trying to minimize the damage. He won't make any lame excuses. Instead, he swore to sort this mess out by himself. The coach/strategist offered a handshake and apology, which Eugen gladly took. He didn't really take it to heart. They're all good now. Night came, and we saw Chang-yun sitting on a bench somewhere casually. He's been waiting for something or someone to come and meet him at this park. The moronic three stooges from the faculty restroom came trudging in to meet our boy. He criticized the bunch of delinquents for complaining about the meeting place while running extremely late. One of the goons started running his mouth and shooting poisonous looks at Chang-yun. Fortunately for them, the delinquent leader knows when to shut his mouth. This kid surprisingly bowed down to Chang-yun and sincerely apologized for his friend's disrespectful tone and words. The two goons beside him were thoroughly confused. This guy usually does whatever he wants because his dad's got his back, and now he's bowing down to some random second year. The bully leader started trembling in shame and fear hearing that his goons were not taking the hint. He had to give them a good whack to the face while Chang-yun was undisturbed while taking something out of his bag. While the leader was beating up his underlings, Mr. Strategist was just casually pulling his AirPods out. The delinquent head knows that if they don't want to be screwed for the rest of their lives, they need to shut up in front of Chang-yun. He shoved his goons out of the picture. He will be dealing with this mess by himself. Thankfully, one of the lowlifes realized what was going on and dragged the other one away. Chang-yun asserted that the head bully should have come alone in the first place. His lack of foresight is why he's going around doing idiotic things. Our strategist handed the boy a letter of apology detailing what happened. He only wrote down what they did and the damage they caused. The three stooges can fill up the gaps within reason. Chang-yun will check the final draft before this guy submits it to the faculty. Instead of anger, he was actually grateful. And now the video is the only thing he's worried about. The coach tossed the garbage footage, saved in a thumb drive like it was nothing. But it came with a warning for the bully to not be stupid and make the situation worse. That is some mafia stuff right there. That boy is cold as ice. This guy's future hinges on the file in this little storage device. Right now, he's completely under the boot of the Sword Rush Club via Chang-yun. A few days later, everything had been sorted out regarding the Eugen incident without any major problems. Thanks to the apology letters, the Parents Association decided not to press the issue. However, Mr. Eugen needed to remind everyone, especially Eugen, that violence isn't the answer. Even as self-defense, what he did to the trio was too much. This kind of thing shouldn't happen again. What Eugen took from that scolding was that if they hit him first, that meant he could hit them back. And as everyone has heard by now, the schedule and format of the school tournament have been announced. Simply put, they can think of it as having the same format as a sports tournament. The round of 32 is a group stage where each team will play a single match. The top two teams in each bracket will advance to the round of 16. That is when the tournament proper begins. For the group stage, the first seed of each group will be made up of the two teams that reached last year's finals and the 6 teams that had the most tournament points. The 2 to 4 seeds are ordered according to the number of each team's friendly match points. That's the gist of the tournament structure. The people around the table had their brains fried midway through that explanation. So, in simpler terms, their next opponent in Group H would be Mission High. They did not have much time to prepare in the first place, and now, the pick and ban system will make things more difficult. Unfortunately, Mr. Eugen will be busy setting up the vocational course, so Captain Ari will step in as the practice leader this time. She is extremely ready to take over the team. Ari thinks that everyone has been taking it easy lately, and it's about time for her to whip them into shape. The first years were quite receptive and pumped for the upcoming training, though. On the other hand, Chang-yun will be analyzing the opponent's strategies and coming up with their own pick and ban strats. Chae-won is just happy that everything has finally come together right after she got into the team. But today, Blami is not going to miss her chance again. She grabbed onto Jiho for one thing and one thing only. She's got dibs on him for the first time today. Now that the two are positioned in front of their screens, Chae-won cannot contain her excitement. Jiho has finally agreed to that 1 versus 1 she desperately wants. This works for our boy too. He's been curious how good she really is when she plays at 100%. Ari instructed them not to hold back so they could get some serious practice in, but they shouldn't drag the game too long since they still need to train some team play. Eugen just wants to take a seat and hop on the practice, but Jeonyeon wants to see this 1 versus 1 first. Local thinks that the outcome is painfully obvious, but Chae-won shuts him up with an ominous glare. Since the new girl is going all out, she urges the ace to do the same. They can't be lame and half-ass this because it's practice. Jiho knows that this young woman is not someone who could be underestimated. So, with his trusty main hero, Spiro, on a sandy beach map, He's going full throttle right from the get-go. He'll face Chaewon with everything he's got. His first charging attack was easy to read and easy to dodge by her Vixist. That move was quite surprising, though a support hero going in aggressively is rare after all. And he's just getting started. He dashed so fast that it looks like Spiro just teleported behind her. No matter how experienced you are, anyone will be shocked after witnessing how fast Jiho plays for the first time. The second attack was a success. He managed to bash her from the back. Believing that the intensity of this first hit was just impossible to maintain, Chaewon thinks that it was just a fluke. After all, she is extremely confident with her 1 versus 1 dueling herself. It's now Vix's turn to rampage with her sharp claws. She's attacking like a maniac, but nothing is making contact thus far. No matter how close she got, Chaewon just can't close the tiny gap between them. And to add insult to injury, Spiro is already charging up a counterattack. That tiny fist that packs a staggering force easily exploited the hole in her attacks. This is the first time that Chaewon has seen someone using a counter as soon as her attack animation starts. She desperately needs to fall back and process this first. Under the oppressive attacks and agility of this hero, it almost feels like she's fighting a superhuman, no matter how you twist it. Jiho just plays like he can see a second into the future. He's just the strongest observation hockey user outside of One Piece. And as she was busy processing what was happening, Spiro turned into a blur and closed the distance once again. This time, it was a sharp uppercut that would undoubtedly drain anyone's HP bar. That single attack knocked Vixist up into the air, so Jiho still has the free attacking initiative. Chaewon just cannot fathom how Jiho is attacking her at timings that are simply impossible to dodge. A rain of punches and kicks made her look like a noob being toyed with by a pro as Vixis loses HP bit by bit. Even her other teammates have not seen Jiho go this hard against someone in a 1 versus 1. Chaewon knows that the first thing she needs to do is get away and cut off Jiho's immaculate tempo. She intends to do that using her hero's full power. But as her skill was undergoing its animation, it was interrupted by a strike again. She's falling deeper and deeper into despair now. Jiho is exhibiting his signature attack style while bouncing everywhere. He just doesn't miss, he's basically nailing every single attack. She wants to at least get a single attack in before dying altogether, but every time she even thinks about it, her animation just gets cancelled and her HP bar falls lower. This is what happens when you 1 versus 1 a god. Jiho's just has a free-range target for skills testing at this point. He's using the topography of the map to his advantage, amplifying his damage output. All Chaewon could see and hear on her monitor was the relentless beatdown of his teammate. She's close to giving up. She can't even land a single blow no matter what move she tries. Blondie has never seen a Spiro move this fast and accurately. She still has a little bit of gas in the tank, but the last-ditch claw slash that she tried landed on nothing but an afterimage. Spiro was already quite a few meters away from Vixist at that point. Looking at this black and yellow monster, it's just impossible. It's like he's getting faster and faster as the fight goes on. Chaewon can't help but wonder whether all the S91 trainees play at this stupidly monstrous level, to the point of driving their enemies into hopelessness. But no, she has played against pro trainees before. This feeling is different. This one-sided beatdown is not the same. With such a high level of dominance, it's just Jiho who's on a tier of his own. Emerging from the smoke, the job's not done yet for our boy. He's just having fun at this point. Imagine your hero getting used as a skateboard through the hot sand, and while sliding down the map, a barrage of sharp punches meets your face. But Chaewon has yet another chance to at least draw some blood with her ult going up. It's a pure offense skill using the sharpness of Vix's claw. Vixis can low-key scratch me up anytime. Of course, Jiho accounted for this timing as well, as that ultimate claw ascends to tear Spiro apart. Jiho simply activated his own trump card. This is the timing to end all timings. This is the attack that stops anyone in their tracks. Seeing this green lightning on your monitor basically means you're dead already. Spiro is such a tiny hero, but his presence is gargantuan when Jiho goes sicko mode with the super counter. In the first second, you're nothing at all. And at the next, you feel Oppenheimer's nuke exploding right in your face with how powerful a well-timed counter can be. Everyone was just speechless after watching all that. Ari's high-level eyes especially can't look away. It was like the beach map was getting pushed down with the impact. In your headphones, you would only hear the crackle of that lightning. Until now, Chaewon still can't process that this level of play is possible. In her eyes, what Jiho just did to her was the epitome of being hot. Dang, converting gaming waifus 1-1v1 at a time. Our boy was clueless about what the young lady was feeling at this time. Jiho praised Chaewon for not making any dumb decisions. Her timings and movements, everything's on point. He was only able to time his super counter perfectly because she played at the perfect pace as well. Those words were firmly planted in Blondie's mind. She interpreted it as Jiho liking her. That is the ultimate gaming reason in perfect form right there. Even if Eugen threw his match with Chaewon, this girl is still the real deal. It's evident that she knows what she's doing. And then there's Jiho, who didn't receive a single point of damage. How can a normal human become that good? Ari almost lost herself and blurted out a question asking Jiho what kind of practice he does. He was quite surprised to hear the captain asking that type of question. She clumsily tried to reel it back. She was just amazed at his crazy improvement in a span of just a few days. But Jiho just practiced like he regularly does, though recently, he started to feel like he's regaining some of the skills he lost. Jinyang was quick to chime in and tell everyone not to believe Jiho. This pervert is still writing a buttload of notes every day. He can fill a notebook each time they practice. But the Silver Warlord thinks that there's nothing amazing in those notes. It's just all the solutions and answers to different moves and counter moves. But anyone decent at the game would know that a notebook like that is amazing. Ari cannot believe that the first years knew about these notes and did not bother to make use of it. The screwball duo was speechless that they did not think of that. As for Chaewon, she also admired Jiho's note-taking documentation. For her, a guy that's focused on his work is hella sexy. So if she asked him if he had notes for her main hero, Vixis 2. Given that Vixis has a stat combination that ranks 42 of one sword, Pururi used to like, they can combine the stats of the new and the old. From that, they can make use of the notes right away. Jinyang is beginning to see a pattern of whack usernames among the rankers of one sword, but you just wouldn't know, for Jiho and everyone else. That was the definition of cool back then. Chaewon wants to see those notes immediately, since they are so precious. She wants to come over to Jiho's house to look at his, but this dude is already agreeing without even letting her finish. He has a different idea though, since he made some especially for their team. He'll just bring the notes to school tomorrow. It looks like it's too early for the new girl to go to Jiho's house, but she's grateful nonetheless. She even offered to buy him some tteokbokki next time. The screwball duo heard this offer and inserted themselves into the conversation for some free food when Chaewon just wanted to have some alone time with Jiho. Night came, and Changyum was hanging out with Captain Ari on the benches of that familiar park. She wonders how you would juggle analyzing the opposing team and studying. This is new to him. This girl isn't usually concerned about his affairs. It's just that Ari found out that Jiho has been analyzing heroes in practice, and she's wondering what she should do to help. That kid even got a lot better after the hack arena. He's just improving at an impossible rate. Changyun sees that this is really bothering Ari, so he reminds her that everyone has their own way of doing things. If the captain makes a half-assed attempt to copy Jiho, she'll just fall flat on her face. This young lady should be focusing on taking care of her wrist better. Ari went back to her default banter after hearing Changyun's nagging. Whether she's at home or outside, someone's always there to nag her. Also, seeing as how Jiho was able to teach Jinyang the moron a few tricks, there might be something worth looking at in Jiho's notes. Of course, with the two sticking around all the time, it probably did most of the heavy lifting. Jiho is going to bring those notes tomorrow, and Ari is worried that they'll probably be useful. She's starting to think that maybe Jiho's the one who should be leading the practice sessions and not her. Jiho's already the ace of their team after all. It's really not like Captain Ari to be bothered by these things before, but if she wants to stand out, working on her biggest weakness first could be the key. Ari knows that she gets triggered easily. If that was so easy to fix, she'd already be like Jiho today. Changyun agrees that if she can just get her aggressive personality in control, she'll be in a much better spot. It's rare for them to talk like this, so she genuinely thanks her friend for his concern. But their hangout was interrupted by 2 phone calls from their respective mothers at the same time. Anyone would get a bad feeling about this one. Ari tried to sneak back home, but the door creaked a little too loudly. If you hear your mother scream your full name, it's game over. At first, she thinks that her mom just saw a not-so-excellent grade report. The trembling hold on the paper in her mom's hands suggests so too. She did not waste a second to grovel into her mother to ask for forgiveness. She did not have an excuse ready, so she went with the classic classes are hard this time. But today, she's dealing with something much bigger. Ari's mom just found out that Ari is enrolled in the vocational course. She failed to take that into account when she got in. Her mom has already prohibited her from gaming altogether. It's been repeated so many times, and Ari just pretends to listen. If that wasn't bad enough, she just went off and made this big decision without parental consultation. Ari tried to reason that she was just giving it a try and she could opt out. It didn't work out. But the mom naturally wants her to pull out right away and go back with the top student Changyeon to cram school. It's really not a good time for Ari to snap at this point, but she wants to fight for this. Changyeon is number one, not because of cram school, he was just born smart. Losing this last opportunity because of some cram school would end her pro career. She wanted to ask her mother whether grades were more important than her daughter's dreams, but that's not the issue for her mom. She would gladly support her if it wasn't an absurd dream. She won't even be against art or music. But when she researched it herself, the odds of a pro gamer debuting are 1 in a million. Their careers are shorter than physical athletes too. Any mother would not allow such a thing. But with Sword Rush, Ari can join a pro team if they can win the school tournament. She's not saying that she'll go on this path forever, she just doesn't want to give up before competing. Her true thoughts of feeling discouraged where she sees someone better than her finally surfaced. Ari just wants one last shot at her dream. That's all she needs. Seeing her daughter's passion, Mama Hun finally relented and asked for the details of this school tournament for next month. She would give her daughter this one last shot at her dream. If it doesn't work out, then that's that. Though Ari just wants to look forward to when she wins. If she becomes a pro after winning a legitimate tournament, then her mom won't stop her anymore. She just doesn't want her precious daughter to get hurt. Mama Hun wants Ari to live comfortably doing what she wants to do. Being a mother, she wants her daughter to succeed more than anyone in the world. There's not a single parent on this planet who would enjoy watching their child fail, so she would give Ari this one last chance to chase her pro aspirations. That is a W mom. From now on, Captain Ari must prove her mother wrong, but she shouldn't be upset even if things don't go her way. This mother and daughter quarrel actually ended in a healthy and loving way with a hug. It's nice to see the captain getting the support and trust that she deserves. But now that the vocational course is out of the way, the grade report issued still hasn't been settled.
It was at this moment that she knew. She f***ed up.
The very next day, things have been going swimmingly in Dano High. Chaewon is on the prowl to get Jiho for a 1 versus 1 lunch this time around. But the three boys are just in the classroom mindlessly hanging out while browsing Jiho's notes. Chaewon was the one who suggested the idea and the one who would treat Jiho. But these guys are the first to browse through the notes. Eugen cannot comprehend if what's written on these pages are actual words. But whatever it is, Blondie wants a peek. She was taken aback at first glance. In her eyes, this janky, wonky handwriting and drawings are so cute. She asked Jiho if this was from her grade school days, but all of this was written and drawn just a few days ago. But even that felt hella cute for her. She thinks that Jiho just grew up to be a big cutie. With the ring of the bell for the next class, the fun is over, and Chaewon must leave again. She just wished that she had come sooner, but these notes are going in the club room anyway. Though today, these three have PE for their next class. They need to rush and change into their gym clothes so as not to be late. Eugen will literally never tell anyone anything if you don't ask him. An hour later, Jang-yeon was feeling smug with his patented fireball strike earlier. He's on his high horse, but Local easily wiped the floor with him at the gym earlier. This kid's ego is both the strongest and the weakest thing in the universe. Upon checking their desk, Jiho noticed another disaster incoming. Of course, the screwball duo felt uneasy to hear another issue cropping up. From the time that they arrived at the classroom, all the notes were gone. Hit Chang-yeon on the case immediately. That kid probably has Batman detective skills. Ari was the first one to know that the notebook of strategies was lost. Jiho looked like a flustered kid trying to explain that it was just under his desk, and then it was gone when they came back. They had no leads and no clues. It just vanished without a trace. It's starting to look like Eugen has infected everyone with the troublemaking virus or something. The screwball duo never fails to take shots whenever one of them is mentioned. But Jiho has always been this way. His only saving grace is the fact that he's god tier at the game. But it's alarming that they have a lot of important information in those notes. Jin-young butted in and assured them that it was fine because Jiho's handwriting is literally illegible, the same writing that Chaewon finds cute. Now that it's suddenly disappeared, they need to make sure that it's not lost somewhere. They rush out of the room because of PE, so Jiho was certain that it was on his desk. Chang-yeon kept on reminding them to get their lives together. But something like this could not just happen out of nowhere. Everyone was there before gym class. The only feasible possibility is that someone stole it then. It's surprising that Eugen is the first one to think of that, or that he's thinking at all. Local thought that what he heard was some sort of compliment. But if someone really stole the notes, then this is not the time to be joking around. The thief must have had a reason for stealing it. Jiho was not really the kind of guy someone would hold a grudge against. So this might be an attack on the sword rush class as a whole. Everyone had a different reaction to that very real possibility that Chang-yun laid out. Eugen can just shake his head at the sight of these screwballs as if he's not the biggest one. Jin-young argued that Jiho is a serial taunter when he games. His private message log is a total dumpster fire of hate. If anything, Jiho has the most enemies out of everyone here. Our silver-ranked warlord is probably the only one with a clean track record in this club. The mom and dad of the team have their work cut out for them with these idiots. Even counting out Jiho, everyone here should not have enemies. All they do is quietly play games. But Chang-yun is keeping it real. People don't need a logical reason to hate others. They will always come up with reasons even if there aren't any. The thief might be jealous that they're the only club permitted for the vocational course, or maybe they're just mad at one member. There are plenty more reasons that anyone could come up with. But if this was a direct affront to the group, Chang-yun himself would show the culprit how it's really done. He already has a rough idea of suspects. If his hunch is right, then there's no reason to hold back anymore. Seeing how serious he is, Ari will leave this one to Chang-yun to deal with. The captain also wants to know if Jiho still remembers everything in those notes. The things he wrote about Sword Rush are still stamped in his mind, but the one sword stuff has faded quite a bit. For the team strat, that Sword Rush part should be good enough. Continuing to talk about this won't change anything. What they need to do is just start practicing. It looks like Captain Ari is continuously improving her leadership. Practice ends, and the first-year trio is walking home together again. With Chae-won joining in practice, it actually feels like the team became stronger, strong enough to conquer the universe and play against aliens or something. This whole alien tangent made sense for the simple minds of Jiho and Eugen. Maybe Local can be a space gaming cafe owner someday. From now on, they will use Chang-yun's strats to crush Mission and Gil High. Then they'll get their revenge on Yongju High to win the whole tournament. As Jin-young was cheering all that, he felt that something was strange. Jiho and Locals are tired of this kid's bizarre mind at this point, but Jin-young thinks that he has something very important here. He feels that there is something strange about Chang-yun. The guy is coming up with strats when he hasn't even touched the game. And if you think about it, Jiho should be doing that job. Jin-young is out here cooking up something, and the two are starting to listen. That's not all that Jin-young has noticed. Chang-yun has told both him and Eugen to piss off and leave the team. Even Jiho knows that Eugen is a one-of-a-kind healer for them. This kid's imagination is running wild with the theory. He's starting to suspect that maybe Chang-yun did the same thing to Soyeon. Jin-young is locked in. He has to find out if that's the case. He'll even go and ask Soyeon himself. On the other side of the school, there's a nerdy-looking student being bullied by someone very familiar to us. It was the delinquent leader smacking the nerd with Jiho's notebook. Some thugs just can't seem to learn their lesson, can they? He ordered this poor kid to bring him something to screw over the Sword Rush course. And these notes that only those geeks can understand are just not it. He continued to channel his anger to this poor kid, given that he couldn't touch the club itself. The nerd tried to explain that this strategy book is quite valuable to the team as a whole. This only earned him some more beating right in the face. The delinquent leader could not care less about these papers. He's going off on that classic bully ignorance. Nerd Boy is trembling in fear and pain, trying to convince the guy that this notebook is seriously important for any good Sword Rush player. This moronic brute just kept on pushing though. He's just a clueless loser preying on the weak. He wants the nerd to take responsibility if the notes turn out to be unimportant. He believes that if a person opens their mouth, one must take responsibility for their words. And he wants to emphasize that this is about screwing over the club completely, the kind of thing that can ruin them for life. Also, the dumbass leader insists that he's not offended or anything. But if he hears any more chuckles about his loss against Local one more time, Nerd Boy over here would laugh his last laugh. The class nerd apologized profusely. The lowlife finally lets him go with a thinly veiled threat. To cap it off, he also gave a painful kick and an order to do what he told him to do. This kid trembled in pain, fear, anger, and every negative emotion you can think of. He realized that he's just screwed now and that he's caught up with the worst guy possible. He thought he'd be fine in a different classroom, but he's now being targeted because of the Sword Rush Club. He still believes that these notes are extremely valuable. If you use the strats written in this book, kids playing at the high school level won't even stand a chance. Now, this poor kid is consumed with the thought of ruining the Sword Rush team's lives. If he's not careful, he'll ruin his life too. He paused for a second and thought of a viable idea. He will use the upcoming tournament and these notes. Nerd Boy will give this to someone in the opposing team. That's right. In his mind, the team is at fault for his suffering. He wants the club to suffer as well.